Hello, this is my presentation on attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and this is for instructing exceptional students. So, a look at the numbers for ADHD. According to the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, the estimated number of children diagnosed with ADHD according to a 2016 survey is 6.1 million. And boys have more of a prevalence than girls do, as 12.9% compared to 5.6. So the number of children diagnosed over time. We can see that in 2003, the diagnosed millions was 4.4, and between 2003 and 2011, that grew up by about 2 million. Now, the breakdown of the 6.1 million number that we just explored a little bit ago, 388,000 children aged 2 to 5 years are diagnosed with ADHD. 4 million children aged 6 to 11 years have been diagnosed with ADHD, and 3 million children aged 12 to 17 years have been diagnosed with ADHD. That is an astounding number of children diagnosed with this disorder. Reported reasons for the increase in ADHD prevalence. A lot can be said for the environmental factors, prenatal, perinatal, postnatal, that the child is exposed to, genetics, and greater public and professional awareness is probably the biggest reason cited. When it comes to ADHD, there are many factors that cause this disorder, including the structural differences in the brain, which can be the thickness, shape, and volume of the brain. There's variations in brain anatomy, which means, for example, a significant reduction in total cerebral and cerebellar volume, variations in brain functioning, which can include activations in the parts of the brain that deal with emotion, motor factors, and cognition, and then neurochemical factors, which means there's a dysfunction in the neurotransmitters in the brain. Where does autism fall? I apologize. Behaviors and characteristics. There are 3 different types of ADHD. A child can either be diagnosed with a predominantly inattentive type, which means that they have a very difficult time paying attention. They have a very hard time listening when someone speaks to them. They have a hard time following their instructions and completing tasks. They have a hard time staying away from distractions. They have a hard time remembering their daily schedule and what they're to do every day. Then there's the predominantly hyperactive impulsive type, which means they have a hard time staying still. They're always bouncing their legs, they're always fidgeting, they're having a hard time staying in their seat. They also have a hard time resisting running or climbing in situations that don't warrant either of them. They are constantly on the go, they talk excessively, they blurt out answers prematurely, they have a really hard time waiting for a turn, and they have a hard time and not interrupting others. And then there's the combined type, which is displaying characteristics of both. Do all children with ADHD demonstrate the same behaviors to the same degrees? As stated before, the behavior characteristics, there are 3 types. The combined type is the most commonly diagnosed type. But, however, there have been children who have been diagnosed type 1, which is the inattentive type, to varying degrees. There are children who are diagnosed the type 2, hyperactive impulsive, to varying degrees, and then the bulk of which are identified as being a combined type, which means that they have both an issue with attentiveness and they have an issue with their impulsivity or their hyperactivity, and that also has varying degrees. Children may become aggressive in certain situations. They may become defiant. They may refuse to follow directions more often than other children. they have a problem reining in their activity levels, they exhibit these behaviors to varying degrees, and that is another way that we can tell when they're being diagnosed how severe their ADHD is and what type it is. ADHD, there's not a lot of information out there regarding following children who have ADHD under IDEA because they are listed under other health impairments. And basically that means that there's limited strength, vitality, or alertness, including a heightened alertness to environmental stimuli, resulting in limited alertness with respect to educational environment. And in order to be served under IDEA, under other health impairments, this impairment is due to chronic or acute health problems such as asthma, ADHD, hemophilia, diabetes, epilepsy, a heart condition, numerous other disorders, and it adversely affects a child's educational performance. Now, that being said, not every child who has ADHD will be served under IDEA. However, they may be served under a Section 504 plan, and that is because it is a disability and it could impair a task of life, such as learning or being social or something along the lines of that. Effective class-wide intervention. One way to help students with ADHD as well as the rest of your class is errorless learning. It is an instructional strategy that minimizes mistakes that students learn when they are learning a new task. For example, trial and error learning, a student runs the risk of learning something wrong or incorrectly, and then having to unlearn and relearn that same concept all over again. With errorless learning, teachers will present a discriminative stimuli to the student and arrange the delivery of prompts in such a way that the student can only give the right answer or very limited incorrect responses. So we have different kinds of prompts, including, say I'm asking a child to model something for me with clay. I will put the child's hand on the clay or put clay in the child's hand. That is a physical prompt. There's also a verbal prompt, such as questions. Is this a square? Does this shape have 4 sides? Something like that. And it can be questions, hints, or responses. Visual prompts will include pictures or gestures that provide the information to the students. And this is a intervention. This is a instructional piece that uses scaffolding. So it goes from the highest amount of prompts down to a second tier of prompts down to the least amount of prompts until finally the student can do it by themselves. Another good way to help children with ADHD within the classroom as well as other kids in the classroom is through peer tutoring. This is where you pair a student with a disability with a peer member in their classroom. And this is really great for setting students with ADHD up for success. It allows frequent and immediate feedback, and it also gives these students a reason and a way to be sociable with other students, to form those friendships, and to feel that inclusion that is so important in yielding amazing academic and social results that we're looking for. These are my sources. Child Mind Institute Understood founding partner. I gathered research for behavior from this site, data and statistics about ADHD. That was our slide on the numbers from the CDC, and that's also where I obtained the chart for the CDC. Helping the student with ADHD in the classroom, strategies for teachers is where I learned about peer tutoring. And Exceptional Lives, our textbook, is where I acquired the rest of my information, such as the 3 tiers of behaviors and the definition of the IDEA placement of other health impairments. I hope that you have enjoyed this presentation. I hope that you found it useful, and I hope you have a wonderful week. Thank you very much.